Hello, M&Ders. Chris here to let you in on how to get a free audiobook and a 30-day free trial from Audible. Because you're a listener of this podcast, all you have to do is go to audibletrial.com/MND podcast. Once you're there, you can choose from over 180,000 titles, including the latest additions to my library. So I have Astrophysics for People in a Hurry by Neil deGrasse Tyson, Vagabonding by Rolf Potts, and Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. So, to download your free audiobook, go to audibletrial.com/MND podcast. If you do, you'll be glad you did. Now, cue the intro music. Four wives. Married, not dead. All right, so today is 9/11, and I thought instead of taking the typical route about 9/11, I thought I would do a follow-up on something we talked about, I think, back in April as a group. Do you guys remember what happened on April 9th of this year?
No.
Nope. Tell me.
On April 9th,
You tell.
Dr. David Dow, age 69, was wanting to fly from Chicago to Louisville on United Flight 3411. But they were overbooked. And they drug him off the plane, and someone on the plane had the foresight to video it. And United took a PR hit for about 2 weeks over that shit.
I was going to say, how long?
Yeah. But I mean, it was significant. And the CEO had to issue an apology. And when we got on the podcast to talk about what had happened, because we were sort of outraged, this was, the height of sort of this, we were in this Trump trance where we still really couldn't believe what had happened back in April. And I know it's going to be hard for you guys to remember the conversation we had, but it was very tilted toward, okay, we thought this guy was black on the video, and then we found out he wasn't black. And because he wasn't black, I think Nick Yerdling was, it wasn't as shocking, or maybe it was more shocking that he wasn't black. And that
was like the reverse from the sniper.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Wait, what sniper?
Man, the sniper that was going around with his son, right?
mm-hmm.
What's his name? Malvo?
Yeah.
Going around, the states shooting people.
In Maryland.
And then he turned around and found out this dude was black. We're like, oh, hell no. What?
Yeah.
Black people don't do stuff like that. And it's the same. Yeah, it was basically the exact opposite with the United flight. It was like, oh, whoa. He was dragged off the plane by police and he wasn't black?
Right.
Wow.
Right.
This is a whole new era.
Right. It kind of like the racism is seeping into other minorities.
Threw me off so much I dropped my fidget spinner. Yeah.
So, but I think all four of our commentary was sort of around this idea of this is a race issue and something systemic that's happening in America that we need to get a handle on before it sort of spirals out of control. But doing follow-up on this, you find out that race may have played a role in how he was actually treated. So being drug off the plane, for example, being using force the way they did. But it wasn't the reason why he was picked. Do you guys know the reason why it was Dr. David Dow that got picked? Did anybody ever tell you that? Because it's kind of an open secret.
I don't know if I paid any attention afterwards.
No.
Nick, do you know?
No, I have no clue, man.
It was because of an algorithm as a society, we've become so dependent on algorithms and on computers.
Oh, you know why that
They
is? 'Cause
ran
the
an-
algorithm is fair, right?
Right. It's supposed to be.
It's
And
fair.
and the algorithm has the best intentions. I can see Jason's face turning red right now. The algorithm has the best intentions in the world. But here's what the algorithm told the security officers at United, that Dr. David Dow, based on whether or not he was a rewards member, based on how often he flew United, and based on a series of other factors, he was determined to be the least valuable, not my language, by the way, the least valuable customer on the plane. Tell me if that doesn't fuck you up.
I like it. I like it. Makes sense. It's a business. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is a business. Yeah, that totally makes sense.
Yeah. He drug his ass
And
off
of
the plane.
course, and the thing is that that's the algorithm that's been working probably for years, right? This isn't anything new. What's new is his refusal based off of, a very particular and specific need to be on that plane, and how they handled it, right? Because before him, there were tons of people getting booted off planes.
Yep.
And they didn't think that especially if someone were to walk up to them, wearing a uniform, people are more willing to acquiesce, right? So they'll just roll off probably with two kids in tow, like, oh, no, we got to go because policeman says we have to get off the plane, right? Like, that's it. But he had a very specific reason to be on that plane and he did not want to be forced off.
Right. They offered him $1,000 and he didn't want to take the $1,000 because he had to make it to Louisville. So algorithms don't factor in human exceptions and human need and human empathy. Right. And let me tie this back to 9/11 for everyone. These type of algorithms became more pervasive and backed by security force and Homeland Security after 9/11. So there's a very good chance that Dr. David Dow would not have been drug off the plane by airport security before 9/11.
Well, you think it's a drug off the plane, or do you think that the algorithm that chose him specifically would not have been in place? Or do you think that, I don't know, it was a stringent rule, like they were unwilling to bend from that algorithm? Like he said no, he would probably refuse 10 times. They didn't just go to the next person, right? So like part of that algorithm, right? If you jump out of the algorithm, then you go human, right? Now you're looking at, okay, now he's refusing. Okay, if he refuses more than twice, then maybe he's not the best, because there's going to be a second person on the list, right? Who's the next least valuable. You could go after them because they are less likely to resist. Maybe that's the best person to pick.
What do we do with resistance? Oh, we move on to the next person.
Yeah,
that probably would have been
But the reason why that is, Jason,
exactly.
But hold on, Nick. Jason, you bring up a great point, because before 9/11, the person talking to Dr. David Dow would not have been armed security.
That's right.
It would have been another human. It would have that isn't bent on authority and binary rules and binary thinking.
You mean a robot?
Right.
A robot?
Yeah, basically a security automaton. And they would have been dealing with a stewardess that had empathy.
Sure.
And would have went to the next person very easily. But instead, they were looking at him like, you're the guy we were told to get. I will not fail my mission.
Right. Meep, meep.
Right.
Well, and I actually, there was an interesting piece. I think it might have gone around with us about who was that poor guy got choked to death over selling cigarettes on the street.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, New York.
New York. Yeah.
Yeah. Eric comes to mind. I don't think that was it, but
I think it was Eric something. I can't get his last name.
It was a great article though, or a piece on we give these guys a lot of shit, but we literally hire people in enforcement and tell them this is the law, enforce it. I mean, at some point to the point of death. You know what I mean? So like, it's not, like, we might look at it a little bit differently, but that, or how abusive that cop was, but he's literally been told and paid, they must comply. At the end, they must comply no matter what. So, judgment calls and making your own moral decisions and choices. Obviously, that's top, but what we don't count right under there is all the bullshit we put into law and all the things that we say have to be enforced.
You know what's crazy about that one that you mentioned, and I want to say Eric Gardner. Yeah, I was going to say his name specifically. But what's crazy about that is that, I'm sure you guys watched it too, but Radio Raheem, that we watched that when we were kids, and to see it happen as an adult, like not in a movie, but on the street like that, it's just crazy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it is crazy. And terrible. And I don't want to take anything away from any authority, figure of authority. Not that I'm viewing them as authority, but any labeled figure of authority that goes off the rails. I'm just saying, the more we create, like what we did gleefully, fucking joyfully after 9/11 with our new rules and our new fears, the more rules and laws that we create that must be enforced and must be followed.
Right.
The more that it leads to individuals being abused.
Yeah. And this post 9/11 militarization, post 9/11 paranoia, post 9/11 aggression, that is part of what makes the current state of the culture so terrifying. Because you see the spiral down of a great country, and it kind of, we're starting to see some of the telltale signs of it. So,
it'd be interesting. I'm not a movement starting type of dude, but that would be an interesting movement to start on the anniversaries from now on, right? It's always they say it's a somber day because of the events of the day. But as we're talking right now, it's a somber day because of what was allowed to happen afterwards. And if I were the movement starting type of dude, that might be a good movement to have. Let's actually look at what's happened since then.
Right.
Let's actually mourn that, the loss of, human empathy. Let's mourn the loss of, looking at someone who's from another country or another religion, straight in the eye and not side-eyed. Let's mourn that stuff. Maybe that's what we need to be looking at, and that'll actually bring attention to the issues that need to be resolved.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah,
I like it a lot. I had another thought, not about 9/11, but I was thinking about this week. For me, it starts at a really sort of very immature place, and then the idea starts to maturate. The first question I ask myself is,
I doubt it.
Well, it may not be fully maturated, but it maturates a little bit. So
you're saying maturate, right?
Yeah, mm-hmm. I don't know if you keep on using that word.
I don't know if it means what you think it means.
It
means what you think it means. It matures. So it masturbates. No.
There you go. See, there you go.
No.
There it is.
So, speaking of masturbation, my first thought was, what is the future of pussy?
You guys did that.
Right.
You two did that.
No.
Your fault.
I couldn't help it, dude. I couldn't help it.
Digital pussy, Chris.
Right.
Digital pussy.
Yeah,
so it matured guys to, well, if I had to write a book on what the future of marriage is, what would I put into the book? So Brian, I posed the question to you to start. If you had to write a book that was going to talk about the future of marriage, so it's one of these, you're like the Ray Kurzweil of marriage. So you're a futurist, and you're going to tell people what marriage is like in 2050. What would be the hot thing you'd put in that book? What would be like the thesis of it?
Without boundaries.
Mm.
Yes,
right. I mean, there wouldn't be any boundaries. Like, it doesn't matter if you're gay or straight or lesbian or whatever, you know what I mean? Or whatever you want to, whoever you want to marry, whatever you want to marry, however many people. It's all about like that relationship. It's not necessarily about tied to a church. You know?
I like it.
That's what I would say.
Jason?
But what do I know?
You might be onto something. Jason, do you go dystopian? Do we go back to the dark ages?
No, I don't think so. I think it'll be, well, what a lot of people would, hate to think of now, especially maybe an older crowd. But I think it'll be less possessive in every aspect.
Is that good?
I don't know. If we can get there. The path there, no, might lead to worldwide destruction. Literally. I mean that. Like it may affect the entire human universe. But if we get through it, if we figure out that, I don't know, maybe the union is fantastic, but somehow our spirits and beings don't seem to just belong to one person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that might be the future.
That's your marriage in 2050. What about you, Nick? You got any ideas? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I think there's going to be the great divide if you're looking at just the United States. You'll have people who rely on community, basically continuing to get married, have children, right? That's the center of the community is marriage and parenthood. And then you're going to have the other side of the people who are like, it's unnecessary, right? I have aspirations and dreams that are beyond the community and that are beyond a place, right? So I don't need to be locked down to other people. I don't need to be locked down to a location. So marriage isn't for me.
See,
so I think
you say
there's going to be
lockdown. It makes it sound so negative. Lockdown.
Well, that's what I mean. I think that's the idea. That's the great divide, right? It's like that's how they're going to feel
like that.
Exactly. That's how they're going to feel. It's like, you know what? Why are we doing this?
Right.
I don't, it's like, we don't need to have children. Those people are having children. Like, there's enough children in the world, and people are going to start to say, well, there's enough children without homes. So if I wanted to have kids, I don't have to have kids of my own. I don't have to get married to have kids. I could adopt.
I think that part will change drastically when the world realizes, especially with the overpopulation, we realize, we don't need the children.
Yeah. So I think there'll be a great divide. So again, you have the people who rely on community. They'll just continue to do what they're doing. But you're going to have a lot of people saying, I don't need that. It's my dreams,
but what
my
do we
future.
Come to when we do figure that out, even if it's for the benefit of mankind, to figure out hey, maybe we shouldn't keep breeding at this level. Like, what do we lose when we have this many people like we have currently who experience the beauty of the sheer pure love that comes from having children? Like, what, and that's the unknowable. What does the world miss out on? Of course, we could do something else great with our minds and time after, when we, in place of that. But just thinking of that,
I think about the
void, it scares me.
I think about the divide, and I agree with Nick on the divide, but I don't think it's going to be community and globalism. I think you're going to see, and so this is a little bit against what Brian just said too, a pushback against his vision of the future. I think you're going to see the final stand of religious institutions. You already saw the Nashville Doctrine come out. You're seeing the religious right gather their strength, get organized, and they are saying no to gay marriage, no to gay sex, no to sex before marriage, yes to traditionalism. And you're going to see a split that's going to want to be a part of that community because they're going to represent what's pure and good in a lot of people's eyes. And you're going to see those people procreate, to your point, Jason, and see the good in procreation. And then you're going to see the other folks that don't want to be part of that and view them as bigots. Right. And whoever comes out on top, that'll sort of tell us a lot about the future. I think another thing that's going to help population expansion is the fact that people are going to live a lot longer. or so we believe. So once you know that you can live a lot longer, you'll have kids later or not at all. The urgency to have kids because you think you're going to have a 60 or 70-year life may not be there. So we'll see a decrease in population because of that too. And then, of course, women continuing to be in the workplace, owning their own businesses.
Not finding meaning just through having children.
Exactly. So I think population will take care of itself, except in those sectors where you're going to see a strong push, a strong stand from the religious right. I think it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
But the thing we leave out of all the futuristic our futurist talk on marriage is the role that social media plays. And I'd overheard Brian say something to his wife last week when we were out of town together about, I don't even want to think, maybe he was saying it to someone else, but he said, I don't even want to think about social media in 10 years. It's already bad enough now. And we've touched on this before. And it made me think, like, what is everybody's policy on when your wife friends her ex or their ex's friend your wife on social media? How should we be handling that? Does it depend on how they broke up or who the person is?
or it depends on how close they live to you.
Yeah, like your best defense is a long drive.
That dude lives like right down the street. It's like, yo, wait, what? And then to your point also, how long ago did they break up? Is this y'all were dating in elementary school, or is this like right before we got together?
How long and how they broke up too?
Right. Did he break up with you? Did you break up with him? Yeah, I think there's a lot of factors involved in that one.
I mean, but are those, either do you lay out a top 1 through 5 of these would be reasons I shut it down? I mean, like, or how do you even approach that?
Well, number one is, do I trust you, woman?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's it for me right there. Cause I think, let's see, my wife is probably friends on Facebook with one of her exes. They were in 3rd grade, I believe. So not too worried about that one.
Right.
But it's a tough one. And you could get really kind of up in arms about it. But there's a good chance. Like, unless you grew up with this person, you're not going to know. I mean, unless it's like a big, like one of the major players that you'd heard a story about. I mean, I don't know. I didn't grow up with my wife. I don't know who all she dated. I don't know which one of those people that she's friends with are, more than I want to know about. So, I guess you could. That's the thing is if you do implement some kind of, well, this is where I'm going to shut it down. You're just shutting down what you know.
Hey, are you that dude that does not want to know, like, that your wife dated anybody before you?
No, I'm fine. I don't. Well, it depends on what you're asking. Like, I don't. I know just through casual conversation about people that she, has dated. Obviously, she was married before me. But I don't think I ask specific questions necessarily, unless it's, about something else. Like, I don't just ask to pry. I don't ask.
Right, but what if she brings it up? Like, she'd be like, like she's talking to a friend or whatever, and they're like, oh my gosh, remember so-and-so? Like, do you want to be around for the so-and-so conversation?
I don't think I care, mostly. Generally, I don't care.
Me, I don't want to be around it. Nope. For the longest time, her sister's really close to her, and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, remember so and so?" I'm like, I don't want to know anything about it. He didn't exist. He wasn't here. He wasn't born. I don't want to hear nothing about it.
So you're that guy that you're talking.
Exactly.
But do you feel like that's a piece of immaturity there on your part?
Absolutely. I embrace it. I'm like, I don't want to know it.
Right.
Don't tell me about it. I
You're comfortable with it. That's fine.
Yeah, and I know about like the guys. You know, there's like 2 or 3 of them, but I know about them, and I think that I'm always going to hold on to that immaturity. Like I know these guys. I know their names. You know, I've been around their sister and their family, so it's not like I can really avoid it. But I'm holding on to it. I'm that dude who just doesn't want to hear about it. It doesn't exist. Yeah, I'd rather not know. No. Exactly. No.
Brian, do you put, by putting all your cards on the table, by saying to your wife, you know, who's that guy, or how do you know him, or what's this about? Is that dangerous? Does your wife then view you as maybe a jealous or like a stalker husband, if you will?
Yeah, and I always approach things of how I've done it and how I do it now. So, I can tell the first one, there was a lot of infidelities and, first wife. And I was that dude checking, and, it's exhausting, like checking Facebook and I guess MySpace at that time. Mm-hmm.
Hi, Tom.
Yeah. Hi, Tom. A nice glitter emoji or whatever.
Tom's somewhere right now rolling around in a bed full of cash getting his dick sucked. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, no shit. Remember everybody had those, every girl had those like kissy lips with emoji or whatever that glittered and sparkled.
Yep.
Like, anyway. So, no, I
no, you're right.
So, sorry about that.
You're right.
Yeah, that's a fact.
Yeah, MySpace, there were some good things I liked about MySpace. Like I liked it when you went to somebody's profile, like it played your own playlist of music.
That's my favorite part too.
Like, yeah, like I think mine was on AT Aliens for the longest.
I loved that. No. If you knew a little bit of HTML, it was what? What was it, Brian?
Yeah, I was that Jazzy.
It was Jazzy Bell. Okay.
Yeah, Jazzy Bell. Yeah. That's what was on mine. So anyway.
Yeah, I like that if you knew a little bit of HTML, you could make your page whatever you wanted to make it look like. That needs to come back at some point, but I don't know how that works with all the analytics and advertising that these social networks do.
Yeah, I used to get paid to do people's MySpace accounts because if you knew HTML, and I did, like you could like trick it out and be like, yeah, it'd be $15, or they buy your beer or something. It's good shit. Yeah. So anyway, back to your question.
Yeah, back to it.
Yeah. So now I don't give a shit. If my wife wants to friend people, like especially because she has hundreds and hundreds of people as quote unquote friends on Facebook, she may know some of them biblically. I don't know. I don't really care because at this point, if I ever found out anything, I mean, I know the stakes. She knows the stakes. I mean, I've had the conversation. Hey, if there's anything that happens, like I'm not going to put up with the shit like I did with the ex-wife.
You mean like if you caught her going to Bible study or something?
Bible study. It's a good one. Yeah. If I came home and there's a gimp in the bedroom, it's over. Okay.
No, it's good because I'm not really on Facebook, but I'll go there to see when I'm tagged in a photo, and I've been tagged in a few photos recently, and I go on there. And I was tagged recently by a lot of family members, including my wife. And I'm on her Facebook page just to give the thumbs up like to the picture. I don't even look at the picture half the time. That's what's crazy. I just like it because somehow in my back of my head, I think
you don't really give a shit.
I think it helps somehow. I actually I'm like, I'm going to help you out with a like because I feel like the people that are on social media need the likes, right? So
makes you feel good.
Sure. Well, that and they're expecting you to like it because it's you and you're tagged in it. Like,
oh my God, the social media expectations. You can get some shit by not liking a few pictures in a row. Right. They're like, what's going on with that guy? Oh, he's throwing shade at me. He hasn't liked my last 8 pictures.
That's right. Or if you like someone's picture but not someone else's picture, else gets catches feelings about it. Like, I can't believe you liked her picture, but you didn't like my picture. I'm like, are you serious? Really? That's happening right now?
Exactly.
Yes. Just throwing this out there, I have officially stopped saying happy birthday to every motherfucker on my damn friends list.
Like, when does it stop? When does it stop, Brian?
But you were doing it.
I stopped doing it 3 years ago.
I jumped off Facebook for the same kind of reasons, Brian.
Yeah, it's fucking hollow ass shit. So like, I don't do that, but I will. I am a little selfish though, because I do, like everybody, you do get the notification when it is someone's birthday. You know, like on your phone or something, you get a notification. It'll tell you, it's like a reminder.
Right.
So I do like let it manage my reminders, but I won't I'll like personally send them a text or something, because I think it's so much better than being one of 500 people.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I like the flip side of that, though. It's going on in my head right now. It's like my birthday pops up and it's like 11:58 p.m. And I see some people on Facebook who didn't send me a happy birthday. You just send them a text. Like, it's my birthday.
No, I was laughing because
Flip it on.
My birthday's on the 29th, and my brother, but I've actually purposely taken my birthday off of Facebook so no one gets my birthday. And so my brother sent me one in August 29th, like, happy birthday, like posted on my Facebook. And I was like, yeah. I was like, you're about a month early.
Well, my question is, did you get the windfall, basically? Did you get everyone else saying, oh my gosh, happy birthday?
No, I cut it out. I knew it was coming though. So I went in and cut it out.
Cut it out.
There it is.
So, I'll get on Facebook. I'll see my wife's profile, and then her friend list will be right underneath. And I've found that if you look at the friend list and you feel any kind of way, it's actually just you projecting your own insecurities. Exactly. So like when I see a dude on there with, like, there's a dude that's her friend that has like 20 abs. I'm like, oh, what's this dude doing? Why is he posing with his shirt off on Facebook? And then I realized, wait a second.
Abs.
He's got 20 abs. And then second, I only see him because I don't have 20 abs. So I've devalued everything that's great about me, and I've heightened the importance of his 20 abs. You get a closer look at his face, like, oh, that dude's got a crazy looking face. But all you can see is the abs.
That. I can appreciate what you're saying from a... well, let me go ahead and take the natural low self-confidence role and say that I think that's good. I think maybe you should do that. But I think you might be wrong and full of shit.
What, like get abs? I should get abs.
I'm saying there's no more evidence to say that you're projecting than you're not. Because maybe you're not projecting. Maybe that is why. I don't mean to make everybody paranoid, but that might literally be why your wife likes it.
Oh yeah, no, I'm certain she likes it, and that's what I'm trying to say. I know my wife is like any other woman and likes a very fit person and likes a good body when she sees one, and that is probably part of it. Like, so to me, that's obvious. It would be like saying I don't like a good body on a woman and I'd prefer someone that's 3 or 4 spins. It's not true. It doesn't mean that the person with the body is going to be a good fit for me in any way, just because of the body alone. But when you look at it, you start to get that insecurity because you know that that's something your wife likes and you don't provide it to her. You see what I'm saying? So that's what it really is. It's more of, I need to get in the gym and at least get close. Can I get close? Because some of that's genetic. Some of that's like this guy's working out 20 hours a day. It's all he does probably.
Well, most of it is he has the time.
And he has the time. I've got other great qualities that he can't come close to, almost certainly. So can I just put a little bit more time in the gym and get my wife something close? That's all.
Right. Or not be concerned about it at all. Right.
Or not exactly. Or not be concerned about it at all. Just be me.
Because she's with you.
Exactly.
That's right.
Exactly. So that's what I mean by you get into this trap of projecting your insecurities because for some reason you're ignoring the dude that makes her laugh, but you don't know it because you can't see that. Right. There's the dude 3 rungs down with the hat on that's kind of chubby. And you're like, you're not worried about that guy. Oh, I got that guy. Right. But that's the guy that makes her laugh or something like that. Right. Which might be her thing. So I think you get in trouble on social media. So that's kind of my point.
Those qualities, you might not There may not be a reason. I mean, if you make her laugh, but somebody else does, well, so what? You can still do that. But if you pick out the guy that, I can't, I'm not competing in that way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's only natural and I don't know, worthy of note. I don't know if it is or not, but it's understandable in the sense that, what you're getting to. But look, all of this boils down to, and something that we've, touched upon several times is, you can say it's social and it's always been like this, in what way, or in different ways throughout the time and history of mankind. But we're in a whole new place. Like that's a whole new thing that we haven't had to deal with, either from the point of the observer.
Like our fathers, you may have it, and mothers didn't have to deal with it.
I didn't have to do that. I mean, my father never had to look at an account of my mother and say, which one of these guys does she long for? That never had to go into his head.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Is she having a conversation with any of these people that would sting? I mean, that happened before, I guess with the inception of the telephone, but a little less, you know what I mean? Now it's at an all new height.
Yeah. You had to work a little harder before, and now
you had to work a lot harder.
Pretty
it's
easy now.
A lot easier to catch. Yeah. Now I mean, you can DM in any platform whatsoever.
While standing in front of your spouse.
Yeah, absolutely. While literally having a conversation, you could be like, no, I'm just texting a friend.
Right. But there are some sex psychologists that say fantasy is really important. It's something that makes for spectacular sex. It's something that keeps marriages together.
That's not fantasy at all.
What's not fantasy? Well,
what we're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Fantasy.
So if your wife's actually DMing guys and like cheating on you, then that's a problem, and hopefully you'll work it out. If she just has guys that look good as on her friend list that she happens to know, and maybe like you said, she's longing for them, then it's okay to let them close their eyes and think whatever they want to think while they're having sex with you. It's what this psychologist is saying. Ugh. I know it would be gross for us, but I'm saying that this is what's been said, is that'll keep your sex life hype and keep it fresh.
Well, okay, hold on. So I don't know this theory.
And keep you married.
So there's actually, if a woman is,
or the man,
if your wife, whatever, if your spouse is fantasizing about another person while having sex with you, it'll actually keep your marriage fresh.
Yes. And your sex life active. And not just another person,
okay.
but situations as well. So and someone else,
some time
or you,
with this before I tell that nameless psychologist to fuck themselves. But just up front, I'm trying to put that together. It seems absolutely ludicrous. Why would that benefit my marriage?
Because there's some numbers out there. I'm trying to think because this particular person has a TED Talk, so I'll get the name and put it in the show notes. But she was saying that
I had a chat with her.
She was saying something like, "Well, let me give you the stats, man." Like she's saying that like
it's okay. I already knew it was a female.
2/3 of marriages are sexless, and there's a psychological definition. There's a medical definition for a sexless marriage, and it means that you're having sex somewhere around the neighborhood of once a month. So if you have sex consistently about once a month, you're in a sexless marriage. And that's 2/3 of all marriages. And sex is the second reason people get divorced outside of money. So it stands to reason that it's a problem that needs to be addressed. So the question is, how do you keep married couples having sex with one another? And some of it has to do with the future that you guys all said you believed in 2050, which is you sort of release some of the bounds. You release some of the bounds of what's allowed to be thought of and seen. And the question is, will those thoughts turn into actions?
So I got a
And
question.
are you in all the fantasies? That's kind
So
of
is it the sex, or does the sex in that fashion save the marriage, or does it save the relationship? Right. So I think it sounds like what you're saying is, we could save your marriage, i.e. keep you together, keep you from getting a divorce, right? Because marriage is a contract. But I think to Jason's point is like, yeah, you're fantasizing about someone not me. That's not good for our relationship. We may stay together for a while because of, the sex might be good, but that's keeping us together, but not in a good place.
Yeah.
perhaps. Theoretically, you would not know. This is why some of the new technologies that can potentially read your thoughts are so pernicious and terrible, because it's the last place that anything is private anymore. And we're hypocrites if we say that we've never thought of any other person. It's just not true. Like, you're going to think, and it might be it might be ephemeral. Like, it might just come and go, and it typically does for a guy. And guys typically come and go. But I'll be here all week. So, but when women do it, we feel weird about it. We feel but we're not supposed to know. That's the idea. The idea is, let's make sex exciting again. And again, there is a line. I agree with you guys. There's a line. Like, you can't be not in the fantasy every fucking time. Then you got a problem.
Well, I think
because you can also
a line
fantasize about what kind of sex you want to have, even though you're having regular sex.
Yeah. I think it's also about who it is, right? If it's the guy down the street, that's different from saying, oh, it's Brad Pitt. Like, it's the attainable versus the unattainable. Mm-hmm. That's another line I think that you could potentially cross in that causes other problems.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. The accessibility of the fantasy changes everything for the person that's having the fantasy, I think.
Correct.
But
and the impact that they have on the relationship because of that. Mm-hmm.
I think the point that was being made, though, in this TED Talk was that a lot of marriages suffer because there's a lack of sex. So let's address the first problem, which is, how do we get you?
I think that's absolutely right.
How do we get you in bed more?
Right.
And fantasy is part of that, but the fantasy is a huge part of that. Fulfilling each other's fantasies or partaking in that to some degree is, I think, absolutely necessary. For this conversation, that we've strayed into the area of, are you okay having sex with somebody that's thinking about having sex with somebody else while you're doing it for the sake of having sex? At the same time, we're mentioning this new age and the digital reasoning. Hey, if that's going to be the case, I can watch this thing and round this out in a couple of minutes and go to bed if I'm not in it for you. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I don't know. I guess maybe a lot of people aren't in it for the other person. They're just in it for.
Well, again, I can't stress enough that you ought to be in that fantasy somewhere, somehow, even if there's another person. And there's no rule that says it has to be another person. It can be a fantasy with you in it, doing something you're not doing. Right. Situational. Right.
Yeah, I guess. And here's the weird part. So I'm a completely like, it's not that I don't have these wild, crazy fucking, uber sexual perverted fantasies. I do. I absolutely do. But I guess what's weird, I don't have them necessarily while I don't have them while I'm with my wife. Like, I'm with her. She may have them, on her end about, while she's with me. But I don't know, but I just don't have a fundamental understanding of why you would necessarily. I don't know.
I'm with you because I'm not
makes a difference.
I'm sorry, I stepped on you on the last sentence. Say that in part again.
No, I said I have a beautiful wife. So I don't know if that makes the difference, but like I've never I've never done that.
Okay.
I mean that all honesty. I don't think I've ever been having sex with somebody that I was with and thought actually of somebody else.
Right. And so that's what I was going to say, that I'm with you on that, because me and my wife aren't at that place yet. So I think about the range of a marriage, and apparently there's a place that you get to where everything is rote memory, and that's a dangerous place for a marriage to get. I don't fantasize right now because I'm very much into the sex I'm having now. So, but I know that I'm a guy who's been married less than 10 years. So I don't know how that translates to someone who's been married 20, for example.
Yeah. That's fair.
Or 30. So
I don't want to judge that.
Or how it translates to someone who's not in your relationship.
exactly. Yep.
Right.
You're very, very well said. So it's all happened since 9/11. So the social media since 9/11. Oh man, we've gotten Facebook, we've gotten Instagram. Our wives
But
are
all,
the
all of it
Patriot Act.
has a solid thing, like where, you were talking about the fantasy and making that real and really going with it. But what's difficult in that is the time that you have to actually focus on that, because when we have that union, when we have, I guess not, maybe not the union. That's not fair. Let me just blame children for our lack of sex, because if you hear this sometime in the future, children, it's all your fault. All my misery is all yours. As my father's was mine. So, but yeah, I mean, that's it, because the kids become when we don't have kids, sex is number one. When we do have kids, we wish sex was number one. Mm-hmm. And it fucking ain't.
And the question is, the question of the week is, how do you balance that? How do you balance this idea of if your kids are number one, which I think you've said and Brian has said in the past, for sure. Nick, you'll have to remind me of your response. How far back is your marriage, considering where your marriage resides amongst your kids, your job, your friends, your family, your hobbies, etc. So and
sex being a critical part of keeping a marriage together, right?
Right. And I've thought about it since we started talking about this idea of, is it the kids or is it the wife? And the more and more I think about it, the more and more my answer has sort of come back to, I guess it's the wife. I guess it is. Because I think I started heavy on the side of it's the kids. But now I'm thinking more. I think when you think it's the kids, you're thinking pessimistically. Let me explain. If you assume that all is going to be well and you're going to make it with your wife, your kids will be gone and they'll be in their own relationship and their own life, and they'll be self-consumed, just like we were in our 20s. And then you'll have to live with your wife, and you'll want that relationship to be great and fresh, and you'll have shared goals and things like that. So this idea of, can you get your kids to 18 becomes really the thing, because I've seen kids whose parents are divorced. And Brian, remind me, are your parents divorced or not? Or but rather, did they get divorced? If they are, did they get divorced when you were still a teenager?
No, they didn't get divorced until I guess I was in my 30s.
Exactly. So it didn't have. I don't want to speak for you. What effect did it have on you?
None.
Okay. That's the answer I thought you were going to give, because I think if you get divorced before your kids are out of your house, it's a big fucking deal. if you get divorced after they're out of your house, the kids are less affected. They just are, because they're already who they're going to be. And you already taught them well, and they were already under the guise of a happy house. So
it's less, they're less affected by it. But I think that also has to do probably with the surprise value of, I didn't see this coming, or, this, like, I think for a lot of kids, they're like, finally, yes, please, just knock it off. I don't want to hear about this bullshit anymore.
Brian, was that you, or?
I don't really want to get into the internal relationship with me and my parents and the struggle that's been, to be honest. But I don't have a great relationship with either one of them right now. So it's like, sure, you're getting divorced, that's great.
Right, but
that wasn't big on your plate. Yeah.
But for you, it was just like, okay, that makes sense, or without going too deep into it.
No, I was shocked that they stayed married.
Okay, so there's your point there, Jason.
Right. And I think, it can still blindside you, or it can be, maybe somewhat emotionally detrimental to you if you just didn't see it coming, like if they surprise you, like, hey, guess what? We haven't really liked each other for the last 15 years, but we've been doing it because we love you two. I mean, I still think that's probably, I've got at least one friend that I know that kind of, that hurt a lot, affected them greatly.
Mm-hmm. My wife's parents got divorced when she was 14. Her sister was 12. Her brother was 16. Her brother was the one who took it the worst. He felt that they were hypocrites, that he had been lied to his entire life. And I think if you get divorced before a kid is 18 or when they're in your house, depending on the personality of your child, it gives them a baked-in excuse for failure forever. It gives them the victim role forever if they decide to take it. My wife didn't take it.
Yeah, it's an easy one to take.
Yeah, but I know it affected her brother deeply because he felt like his mom was not who he thought she was.
It just taints their view of relationships altogether.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not they take the victim role, it's more like, imagine him getting into a relationship, but questioning if the way that, let's say, his girlfriend interacted with him, questioning it the whole time, like, is this just a facade?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it isn't me. Maybe it's the idea of a relationship that she likes. Maybe it isn't me. Maybe it's the idea of marriage at one point that she likes. Maybe it isn't me, but she wants to have kids and she thinks that I'd be a good dad. Right. So it's not about me. It's about that. So that's, it's can be a huge challenge. And just for me, I think that's the biggest one is how do kids at that age then approach relationships with other people after having seen basically an example, fall apart, or seen a bad example
and that's
the entire time.
And I haven't had to endure it. So I don't want to step out of line there, but I think all those things, when you were just saying, if they look at relationships like that, I don't know. I don't mean to be, should you have a pessimistic outlook, but those all seem realistic to me. Like maybe she's not doing it just because she's crazy about me. I don't know about anybody else, but I've been there,
Yeah. And you hear people say, Jason, all the time. You hear people say, Jason, all the time, staying together for the kids is a terrible idea. I disagree completely. It's like it's the primary, it's the best reason why. If there are no other reasons why, let that be the reason why.
Like, if you can't do it and maintain some happiness, I get it, but that's not an automatic, you shouldn't do this. Like, it's not easier on your kids because you just split Christmas. I mean, that's not a fucking default.
Right.
But, look, to what you're saying about your sister's, I'm sorry, your wife's brother there, it's always going to be there, but you reminded me of something that I think is important to teach your children, and very difficult because I don't know very many people who are comfortable saying this out loud, but every one of us is a hypocrite. Every person you've ever met is a fucking hypocrite. I am proudly a hypocrite. I'm also a liar to some degree. Every one of us are. Like I think that's part of it too, is that it's not that they can't handle what's happened and what they've perceived. It's that nobody ever said to them, hey, we're good, but challenge it a little bit, because everybody you see is flawed and human.
Yes.
And that means that we are full of hypocrisies. We are chock fucking full of it. Every person on the planet. And we're all going to lie to benefit ourselves at some point.
Yeah.
Get used to it, kids. Sorry.
Yeah. And I think in marriages, you lie a lot to benefit your spouse and your kids, frankly.
Yeah.
Keep them afloat,
Sure.
Keep them going. We've talked about that a lot.
Just keel.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd lie.
You would. And I think the best gift my parents gave me was having a marriage that within the relationship, they weren't wealthy, but they worked together to get us all fed and in school and clothed, and that they did have disagreements, but they didn't break up. They showed forgiveness and communication and empathy and sympathy. And I think it was so much different for me seeing all those flaws you talked about, Jason, all that hypocrisy work, that helped me be someone who can compromise. Whereas I think that what my brother-in-law got so upset about is that he was presented a facade. He was
with a lie.
Yeah, he was presented the cleavers.
Yeah.
And
didn't exist.
Right. And then when it was actually a real relationship.
His version.
Yes.
Right. Or at least his version of it. Yeah.
Sure. His mental.
Right. The stay-at-home mom that loves her kids and takes them here and truly enjoys all that. Like, no, she doesn't enjoy that shit. She wants to own a business and go live her own life. This whole time, she's the smartest person in the household in her opinion, right? But she doesn't get to show it. So it wears on you.
Sure.
So I think that's what hurt him, whereas I got to see a really raw, visceral relationship every single day. And then see them work things out, see them make really big mistakes and get through it. And that was a great gift on understanding human shortcomings, human flaws, human ego and personality. What you said, Jason, self-interest and how to manage and balance that. I think Nick talked about last week, you're never getting that balance correct, but you have methodologies and habits you can utilize to try to right the ship when things are off balance.
Yeah. So real quick, one of the things that I was, looking into when we talk about this balance, I think last time we talked about the wife and the kids, right? Mm-hmm. But this time we were talking about wife, kids, work, dreams, personal, stuff, hobbies, all the stuff, right? So if your kids are number one and you get all this other stuff, like where does your wife really sit? So, and I'm just thinking how many hours a day do we actually spend with our wives, right? Chances are we spend more time at work than we do with our wives. We spend more time at work than we do with our children. So we spend more time at work. Can you say that work takes precedence over our wives?
That's interesting. Let me think, and feel free to jump in, Brian or Jason, if you have an immediate answer. I need to think about that.
I mean, I think the modern setup for work, well, it's not modern like it's new. I just mean, I hope we're evolving out of it, but I think it takes precedence over everything. So, yeah, it naturally takes precedence over, and we're comfortable with it because as we based it, it means survival.
Yeah, I was about to say it's a basic human need of work and money. We've tied to it's just survival.
I don't want to criticize too heavily because 100 years ago, I couldn't criticize it because it took precedence because I was out in a field trying to grow fucking vegetables. You know what I mean? Like that's it. That's all I had. Like if I don't, everybody dies.
Yeah, and I think the difference there might have been that work that you did, your wife likely did that work with you, and maybe even your children. You were all a unit, right? So now I go to my job, she goes to her job, our kids go to their school.
Right.
We're not doing
care, sure.
Yeah, we're not doing any of that together.
Yeah,
so I kind of look at
separate.
Yeah, so I kind of look at it now like, really, yeah, okay, we talk about my wife and kids, but really it's like work first. You know what I'm saying? That's eating up 10 plus hours a day. Okay, then
her work, yeah.
Yeah, and then what's next? It's like kids, right? You divide your time. When you get home, you're dealing with the kids, right? You're both focused on the kids. And then really like as far as like hours in a day and maybe even thoughts in a day, how much of that time does your marriage really get?
Yeah, that's true. I guess I really hadn't thought about that because the difference is, we've always done this, but we haven't always done it separately.
Right.
When we started doing it separately, I think the question comes up, can you keep your wife without the job? And is that why?
Say that again.
And is that why work?
Ask me a better question.
Right. Is that why work? Is that why it becomes number one? Because in modern society, you may not be able to keep your spouse without your job. And that goes both ways now, I think. In some relationships.
Well, maybe it's just the type of work that we choose, right? Because you could still choose to have a family-owned and run business, right? Like that could be a choice. Yep. Again, I think early on, or maybe you make that choice later on in life, but
less and less as we give more power to corporations.
Well, that's the point.
But yeah,
that's
okay.
it.
Whatever
Exactly. Well, that's my point, right? I think we're making the choice, or maybe it's not a choice, but like you said, we're giving them more power, so we feel like we have less of a choice to create something on our own. But yeah, we give ourselves to the corporation. Well, that splits us up. But however it happens, I'm just looking at that priority, and it seems like work is number one, and then your kids are number two, and then that gets into that struggle. So number three is, okay, Brian, you're into football. I'm into soccer. It's like, there might be other things. You get music, whatever it is, your personal interests.
Maybe the wife is 4 or 5.
Hey, so,
yeah,
then where does that fall? And then where does your marriage fall? Like it, and it's not a fault thing. The point is that based on all of these things you have to prioritize, wherever marriage sits, and it's likely 4 or 5 or 6 down the line, man, it's a struggle, right? Like this is real now. This is not,
Nick,
I mean, it's
I've mentioned this before and I'll say it again. People did not believe me when I told them, we're talking about people close to my life. I wasn't like in the streets yelling the shit, but
right.
People didn't believe me when I told them the reason I broke up with my son's mother was because she didn't have one particular thing that she was interested in, and she didn't laugh at things that I thought were funny. And I sniffed that shit out early because I realized what that really means is she's going to depend on me to make a life for her. I'm going to have to be her entertainment. I'm going to have to be all these things that I frankly, as an extroverted introvert, makes no sense.
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
Me. Yeah.
I can't be that thing. I need you to go do you. I'm the kind of guy that needs my partner to go do their thing. Go do you and come back with a great story. So I think if you're in one of those relationships where you have to be the court jester for your spouse, and you have to be the person who tells all the family stories, and then on top of that, you have to take them out and cook or whatever else, it's going to be more difficult.
And I think you're basically putting that in the perspective of the additional, I hate to call it, but it's a burden. When you have all the other priorities you have to take care of, now this is something that maybe is extra. Like it's more stuff that you have to do in order to keep things afloat, when even if you guys, like the relationship you're in now, you know, it's a struggle with the time that you have and you guys are doing your own thing. How much more energy would you have to put into that relationship to keep it going when the person is that dependent on you, right? Like you only have so many hours, you know, like, so the fact that you and your wife now can do the things that you need to do on your own puts less of a strain on you. But that's what I'm like, this is, you know, the idea of marriage, like people always look at like sex and money and all this stuff. It's like, how about you just look at priorities?
Yeah. But you introduced something there, Nick, that I don't think I had spent much time with. And it kind of filled in a gap for me. So like, you know, during one of my marital times of struggle, I thought to myself, maybe I just kind of gravitate towards number 5. I don't know what that is, but I said, like out loud, I'm like, to my wife, I'm like, I only have 2 kids, but I feel like I'm in 5th place.
Huh. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that statement never made any sense to me. But when you said what you just said about, you know, their likes, or, you know, BC with football, or you with football, or, you know, Chris and you know, some kind of creative endeavor, me or any of us with the creative endeavors. I don't know what 3 and 4 are for my wife, but yeah, those fall in there. You don't even think about them. It's just like also what makes her feel good, also what makes him feel good. Where do you fall in that? Because you know, as we all know, the level of makes me feel good can oscillate. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, it's it's a solid one. Where how far back do you fall? And I guess, you know, the better question is, how aware can we be of that ranking, of when somebody's slipping?
So this is Jason.
Do we want to adjust it?
This is Jason, the reverse of what I was saying, right? Where I'm saying you'll be in good shape as long as your wife can be happy doing something else that makes her really excited, or your husband. This is like the opposite of that. This is saying, if you want to be the thing that makes your spouse happy, but they have other interests, what do you do? Is that what kind of the sum up of that? Sorry.
Yeah, maybe, but they don't even have to be noticeable interests. You know, like they don't have to be something that you're aware of.
Right. Yeah.
You don't have to have a wife that's that places her profession highly, or that has social activities that, you know, are denoted as these are paramount to my life. Like, you can just fall into that. And you know, the flip side of that is they can fall into that for you. I mean, we may love what we love, like what I just described, but not consciously know that we're placing that just mentally, not even in our actions at first, as the most important, and then we just start, you know.
Well, let me give you one let me give you one of those that kind of fits into that, you know, can't see it, hear it, smell it kind of thing. But what about a person's own insecurities?
Yeah.
You know, imagine a person battling with that. You know, you won't hear about it, but that could be taking up a lot of mind share for that person, right? And then you fall in somewhere after that. So yeah, you're right. I mean, like, you don't know, and you feeling like you're number 5. It could be a person's, you know, their religious thoughts, you know, thinking about their religion and are they doing what they're supposed to do in the eyes of God in their relationship with other people? That can be weighing on them.
Or
like all
what am I
these
missing
things
out on when I see my friends on social media do this? Like that may be
yes,
a place, like a literal rank. Like,
yes,
I'm not keeping up. I'm not doing this. I could have so much fun.
you got it. Or social media itself. Like your spouse or yourself.
That's a big place.
Exactly. Sitting there on the phone, trolling. That's a distraction from everything else as well, but they've made it a priority, or you've made it a priority. So yeah, all of these things, I think with social media, that's a huge one for me, and not to say in my relationship with my wife, but I think that's a huge one for a lot of people because, we only have moments, as a married couple throughout a day, right? So even if you took away work and you said on the weekends, married with small kids, like there's always something to do, right? You're either with one kid or you're with the other, you're cleaning something or fixing something or kissing a boo-boo. Like there's always something. And imagine like the 24-hour news cycle, that social media stuff doesn't go anywhere. So if you allow social media to steal your moments throughout the day, oh man, it's sucking the life, like all the little extra spaces of time that could have been spent talking or doing whatever together, it steals.
And I've had there's like exact moments you were like, don't waste this on that. Don't do that. I love Quentin Tarantino, and that kind of included Robert Rodriguez for a little bit there with Dusk Till Dawn, and they made that into a TV show. It's on El Rey, I think. I don't know. I didn't get to finish it. I canceled my cable as I was doing it. But Don Johnson was in there, and his character talks about what was he referencing? I think he was referencing seeing how many times he was older, and how many times he would see his son. And I started thinking about how many times I live out of state from my parents, about if I were to count how many times that I might see my parents before they're gone, it's disturbingly low. Like it hurts. Like when you start thinking about that.
Right.
Like it's a number that you're like, Jesus, that's the amount of actual physical contact I'll have with these people. But the same goes to what you just said, Nick. The same goes to your wife. Like we're so fucking busy with our work, with the kids, with all of their which now is expected between sports and whatnot, with all of their extracurricular activity. Which, and again, that's new. That's new in the world. We didn't have to worry about, my kid plays 3 sports. That didn't happen 100 fucking years ago. Your kid played 1 sports, and that was the plow. Survival mostly. So yeah, I mean, if we were to break it down, how many moments that we actually have to connect with our spouses, it's probably mortifying.
Yeah, dude, I got an example for you. This was just a silly one, but I think my wife had gone upstairs to kind of shut down the night, and I guess she was doing something on her phone or something. So I went upstairs, and so she's on the bed and she's on her phone, right? So I was like, all right, well, she's doing something on her phone. I don't know if she's talking to her friends, or, she got a little group of girlfriends that she talks to, or maybe she's trolling. So I sat down next to the bed and I got on my phone. So we're doing this. It's probably going on for probably about 10 minutes. Or maybe a little bit longer, maybe 15 minutes. And then I'm kind of like, well, what are you doing? Are you actively doing something? Like, you talking? And I was like, what are you doing? She was like, I was just waiting for you. You know what I'm saying? We just spent the last 15 minutes waiting on each other on social media. We didn't think to even ask the question or whatever. It was just, she was on it. So I figured, okay, well, she's on it. I'm going to get on it. And the whole time. Yeah, I was waiting for her to be done, and she was waiting for me to shut down my night. And here we are 15 minutes later, wasted all that time.
Yeah. Outside of coffee, social media is everyone's favorite addiction. And the slot machine effect on social media,
I still love it,
is so powerful. I don't know if any person's going to be able to, I don't think any person in modern society is going to be able to avoid the addiction to their screen, because that impulse, that slot machine impulse that social media creates, is super duper powerful.
Dude, and I will tell you that it is an impulse, because I know that I was working from home one day, had my phone in my office, and then I went into the kitchen. As I'm in the kitchen, I realized I don't have my phone on me. Mm-hmm. And I went back to get my phone, and midstream, I stopped, and I was like, dude, what are you doing? It was like, you just went in there to get a drink just to go back into your office. It's not like you weren't going to be gone for an hour. We were leaving the house. I literally had to stop myself, turn around, go do what I was doing, and then come back to my office.
Have you ever caught yourself on the toilet and you forgot your phone? You're like, oh my God, I'll be here for 7 minutes without my phone. What the fuck am I going to do?
Yeah,
man.
How am I going to take a shit now?
This can't happen. Yeah,
boring,
waddle out.
Boring shit.
Boring shit.
It's a boring shit, right? Yeah.
But yeah, man, it's crazy. It is straight up an impulse. And I think, again, that's, I think, to the point of the priorities and all of these things that are in the way. Imagine that now. You not only have a thing, a hobby, or a responsibility, you have an impulse that is now keeping you from that time from your wife. I mean, it's crazy. Like, that's why we have these conversations.
Impulse.
Yeah, that's why we're having these conversations. It's like, we know we don't want that. Right. So what can we do to avoid or mitigate or whatever that situation, so that, we maximize the time? And sometimes it's just a reflection. Like for me, just having this conversation will likely remind me the next time when my wife and I are both sitting on our phones, at the dinner table or, up in the bedroom. It's kind of like, oh, no, not doing this. Let's shut this stuff down and talk or hang out or whatever.
I think it starts at a higher level, and I kind of accidentally said it a little bit ago with the response when you were talking about your wife was on her phone and you were on yours, but I said that a statement out loud that kind of caught me after I said it, and I think that's the catch is I was just killing time, and I think about that like.
Because you actually did that. Like you literally killed.
Like you literally killed time. But let's change the wording. Let's not do that. Because and look, no matter what we change it to, we still will because we're human. That's part of it. But let's change that statement. Time equals life. So what you just said is, I'm just over here killing life. Mm-hmm. I'm killing the amount of existence in an absent-minded way that I have on the planet. If you start there, if you can start by saying, I'm not going to do that anymore, you're still going to do it. You know what I mean? But no more killing time. And I've come to that, as I age, you become more aware that clock starts ticking a little louder. You know what I mean? That the second hand starts striking with a little more resilience. So you do that, but that's the important part is stop killing time. It's not okay. That's all you have. The clock doesn't start again.
Exactly. So with that, what I've actually done is, so when I put my kids to bed, I'll leave my phone downstairs. And the reason for that is I basically took a very similar stance that you're talking about. And instead of saying killing life, I said, I'm stealing from my children. Like that was huge for me. Like that's what I realized. Like, no, that's what you're doing, Nick. Like if you're looking at your phone and it's not something for your children, like they've asked me to look up something, I'm literally stealing my attention. I'm stealing my affection. I'm stealing myself. Like with the time that they deserve, I'm stealing that from them. And what kind of father am I to do that to them? Right. So there's the same thing with my wife. It's like, I have to have, especially when she's home and we're together, I have to have a legitimate reason, because there are legitimate reasons to be on your phone, right? Trolling Facebook is not one of them. But if it's not a legitimate reason, if I find myself, again, scrolling through something and I'm in the presence of my wife, then it's like, no, I'm stealing. It's not fair to her.
From her.
Yeah, it's not fair to her.
But we've also been taught that's okay because it's an escape. Like, oh, well, I need to check out for a minute. No. Stop. Look, you're going to check out. Eventually, the grand checkout is fucking coming. It's on its way. Right. Might be here in 3 or 4 minutes.
Right.
Might not be 50 fucking years. It might be 3 or 4 minutes, or it might be right now. So there's no, oh, I need to check out. Well, okay, take a vacation. Let's all do something, that we check out together. Like, no, I get it. The brain needs to disconnect. It needs to refocus in kind of a, ambiguous way and flounder for a minute in itself. But we're getting disconnected in a way of how we should do that. And if you ever hear, hey, I just need to check out. I need to do my own thing. This is not your own thing. This is somebody else's thing. It's the fornication of things. It's not.
Yeah, but back to what you said, we're human, and we're going to go back to the habits and the impulses. So for me, it is still a struggle. Like, it's still one of those things where I tell myself,
me too.
like,
Me too.
I have to say it, like, leave the phone. And sometimes so like my son will ask me, he's really into Legos or, his Wii toys and things like that. So it's like, he'll ask me I'll say every other night, he'll ask me about some character or some superhero character, right? To look him up, right? So that's usually the excuse. That's the reason I have to have my phone, because I know he's going to ask me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's so hard because if I bring it, the impulse is there. Right. So I'm more inclined just to leave it downstairs. And then when he asks me, I'm like, dude, I don't have my phone. We'll have to look it up tomorrow. Because I think that's better for our time together than bringing it up there better. And it's a distraction. Yeah. But it's something, again, I have to tell myself, don't do that.
You have to be cognizant.
Imagine.
My wife started doing that, and with her phone, like, she started, like, after the kids go to bed, she, like, leaves her phone in the bedroom, comes out with me, and we watch TV. There you go. And it's so fucking small. It's so simple, man. But it's so much different when I don't look over. I'm like, I thought we were, at the very least, we're watching a fucking show together.
Right,
you got to check something?
So I had
oh, no, I'm watching.
I had the seemingly unfortunate situation to have lost my phone last week while I was out of town. And on the surface, that sounds
Mexican
like a terrible thing. And there's a ton of things you have to do, and you're working with backups, and you're wondering, oh, what did I lose? There's a lot of anxiety around it. But here's the crazy thing. I went 2.5 days without a phone, and there was absolute freedom in it. The anxiety
in another country.
I lost the phone in another country. There was just absolute freedom in not having no anxiety, guys. You're anxiety free when your phone is away from you, because and the people around you know. See, that's different than like leaving your phone at home and they know you have a phone. When they know you don't have a phone, no one's trying to reach you. When you leave, you're gone. And they'll see you when you get back. And no one's texting you. There are no emails to check. For the most part, I was taken aback by the bliss of not having this device, tethered to me at all times.
Tethered.
And
the other side
so
of it
we
is
should just start a thing, Nick. FOMO. We should start a thing, Nick, called phone fasting. Just the way we do fasting with food. Let's say you spend 1 day phone free. What would happen? Probably the best thing in your life.
Right. So the other part of it is, I was going to say that, so that's the one part of it is that the people who know that you don't have it aren't trying to get at you. That's right. So you don't have that pressure. Mm-hmm. But the other part is, when I was going to say, the millennial FOMO, fear of missing out. Mm-hmm. That's what draws people to the phone, right? To social media, because they fear that they're missing out on something. That's why you got to scroll. Why the hell else would you scroll? Right? Because you think there's something you're missing. So
something good's coming
exactly.
on that next picture, the whole slot machine mentality.
You got it. You got it. So that's the thing, is that it breaks you. I mean, you still have it. You may still have that anxiety, right? Because you don't have the device. But maybe it does actually train you, because, and here's a question though, Chris, like, is a day long enough to overcome the anxiety, right? And then get to a place of freedom? That's my question. I think that maybe it actually takes someone 3 days, right? Because they're so anxious about, again, FOMO and the people who can't get in touch with them. And then, the next day, they're like, you know what?
You set them up for failure,
bad.
Nick. That's the problem. You just like a regular fast, you tell somebody right now to go fast for 3 days, their chance for reviticism is pretty high.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
No, what I'm saying
it
is
would be
that,
hard. But to answer your question directly, I think a day is enough because we have something around 10,000 looks at our phone per day.
Yeah, so I'm not saying that they can't accomplish it. What I'm saying is that do they get the value, right? You actually achieved a sense of freedom. And my question is that would the average person who trolls, would they achieve a sense of freedom or would they just have a day of anxiety? You know, because that's not the benefit we're seeking.
I don't know.
Right?
I think
the benefit you're seeking is the freedom.
Maybe on the second fast, Nick. Maybe the first one would be a day full of anxiety.
Exactly. It's not a time.
And the second one
with the first fast
would be good.
It's how many rounds?
Right.
Like
and
the
then
second or third round, I think
because imagine freeing up your thumb
Yeah.
from somewhere between 1,000 and 5,000 open and close unlocks on your iPhone a day. Your thumb didn't do that anymore. What would happen? You ever see people who stop smoking after like 20 years and they still hold their hands like they have a cigarette, especially when they're drinking a cocktail?
Dude, I used to push my non-existent glasses up on my face, dude. Literally, like push my nose. I ended up pushing my nose because I thought my glasses were still there.
but it is something like what you just said. I was thinking about, if no one gets to put value or miss the time that you're gone, do they really get to value the time that you're there?
Yeah.
So you disconnected from the world, and I mean, I noticed it. It's like this, and I didn't know you lost your phone at first. I thought this motherfucker is not responding to me. I'm not happy. I don't know what he's doing. I'm sending many texts. But like
that is the key. You have to let people know.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe not, because you realize on the flip side, you're like, oh no, maybe this is not a natural world that we live in, and I don't realize the value of them being here and in my presence because I don't have to. I don't have to value it. Like we sit on the couch. We sit on the fucking couch 4 feet from each other. 2 feet from each other, and we don't have to value it. We could be together in social media right next to each other. We don't ever have to be without each other. My wife and I are in constant contact. We don't ever have to really be without each other in some kind of spirit, mental form. But we're totally, actually, without each other in spirit because we're not valuing what it's like to not have them there.
Yeah.
Until even lovers need some time away.
There it is.
Yeah.
Is that a fucking Chicago song you're breaking into?
Like, and I think the irony of it all, Jason, is that social media was created to help maintain that balance because now you can reach out, you can touch base. That long lost friend, that parent that lives out of state, now you can create and restore balance, communication with them.
Maybe. Or maybe it was invented just like 9/11 to imprison us all.
Oh, shit. And on that note.
So, yeah, on that note, I got 2 things for you. I got 2 things for you, Jason, for things you brought up. One is a application we all use named GroupMe, but I suggest, Jason, that you use GroupMe with your family. So invite your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister. I have one. It's my family GroupMe. My dad lives out of state.
I think it's a
and
great
it means
idea.
I can talk to my dad every day. And during the Hurricane Irma, he lives in Port St. Lucie, Florida. During the hurricane, I was able to communicate with him the entire time and know that he was okay because of GroupMe without him having to text or what if iMessage was down or anything like that. So, and then he was able to do it with everybody in one fell swoop. So we have like 10 or 12 people in our family GroupMe, including my wife, which is pretty cool. And we kind of want to expand it to her side too. It just hasn't like taken off to my wife's side of the family, but I think it eventually will. It's a great way to communicate. So that's one. And then two,
It's a fine Microsoft product.
yes, it is. It is. Two guys I think just a couple of guys started that, Brian, and Microsoft bought them for $60 million. Isn't that awesome?
I don't know. Just because you buy it, does it make it
Smart
yours?
man.
Yeah, I think it does. I think that's what it actually means. But I know what you mean in spirit. So here's the second thing, Jason. This whole 100 years ago, we were plowing and working together on the farm, and Nick talked about it. There is a fantastic book that every person should read, in my opinion, named Sapiens. It is by Yuval Noah Harari, and it talks about how agriculture actually, it started in their estimation, or in scientists' estimation, 12,000 years ago, but it was the invention and the advent of agriculture that created the first human or Homo sapien prison. Because then you needed people to work the field to get the harvest. And before you had that, Homo sapiens just roamed free. We had carefree lives. We were awesome. And like slavery wouldn't have happened without this, or like all kinds of implications that our agriculture had, modern agriculture had on Homo sapiens. And the end result of it is us all being batteries. No, he doesn't say that. But
Right. They were imprisoned by the work, but they lived longer.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Somebody had to work it, but the food was guaranteed. So it was the very first time in known history that man chose security over freedom. I think you'll love it. So, Brian, you got anything to close us out on? You were mostly quiet during our convo because we wouldn't shut up. So I just want to give you the chance to.
No. I mean, I was on that same trip with you, and I kind of experienced the same thing because we, for whatever reason, could not. We'd never been out of the country, so I'd never been out of the country before, and I didn't know you had to turn on the roaming data. And so like our phones did not work, and we didn't have Wi-Fi in our room for whatever reason. It worked everywhere else in the whole complex, but not in our room. And so it was actually glorious because when we would get to our room, and it was just me and my wife,
It was just you and your wife.
our devices stopped working, except for the 4 channels of Mexican porn.
Nice.
We haven't talked to you guys about that, but yeah, it was.
Right. So it was
legit.
design.
Please
It
do.
was legit.
Your
Please
phone
do.
shut down.
No,
by design.
okay. And so here's the best part. There was 3. Apparently, there were 3 nudist colonies that were resorts that were around ours that we didn't know that was. I mean, we didn't interact with them,
The
of course, but
hedonistic part of the tour.
yeah. So I guess they all share the same cable feed. And so there were these 3 porn channels at the end, like you're just kind of checking
extra.
through, and there's 3 porn channels. Like, whoa. Yeah. And not like, this isn't like Skinamax. This is like hardcore, like, oh my God, that's on television. Okay. Well, I guess we're in paradise, right? But the funniest thing is we had left the TV on Kindergarten Cop because I was making fun of it because it was dubbed over in Spanish, and Arnold Schwarzenegger's yelling.
That's going to be awesome.
Cállate, and he's hysterical. I think I sent you guys a video of it.
Yeah.
And I thought it was hysterical, and I had left it on, and I came back, and the channel programming of that channel had flipped, and it was porn. And I'm like, I thought like our maid had left it because every time we left, we would come back, and the TV would always be placed on like the resort channel, and we'd go scroll through all the things that you're supposed to do that day, and like we came back, and it's like just this guy just giving it, and
It might have been amazing. She might have been sitting there diddling herself. Yeah.
yeah, but no, it actually was that exact channel because that channel had actually flipped, and it was just like so bait and switch.
Yeah, no
it's like,
Wi-Fi.
It goes from Kindergarten Cop
Yeah.
to handcuffs.
Yay.
You know what I mean?
Hey, by design, homie. That's no accident. No phone.
But
and porn.
no phone in
The resort was not successful
Actually,
if they didn't get you off.
That's right.
I think it's a fantastic idea.
That's
You got no
what the
outside
resorts-
communication. Here's
yeah.
you and your wife and 3 channels of porn.
That's right.
And a stocked mini bar.
Yep, stocked mini bar that gets restocked. And
no, you guys were just going, so I was letting you. And I didn't really I really couldn't jump in there, but that was my takeaway. But I feel you on that because my wife's addicted to the social medias.
Yep.
And Chris, what this all started from is when you said that I'd mentioned something. What was nice is that, because we weren't on social media for like 2 or 3 days, I guess. It was glorious because me and my wife were actually like talking, but the minute we got like out like into the public pool and it wasn't raining at the resort, the phone came right out and she's texting, she's updating Facebook and she's tagging, and me and your wife are over there and we're having these we all just had a group shot or something, I think. And then all of a sudden we're like, what the fuck? I just got tagged. And she's like, my wife's like 2 things down, just tagging everybody. And I'm like, man, put that shit
here and have a shot with us.
That's right. Come on.
Come over here and be a person.
Imagine the value of family activities if the only value was the value it held to you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And changes the whole thing.
Beautifully said. Do as we do and go on a phone fast, start light, maybe just half the day, maybe just don't bring out your phone at dinner and see what happens. And I bet it'll be great. So
I'm going to introduce that, but with your group me, I'm going to hook the whole family.
Do it.
I really do. That's a great thing. I can get my mom and my dad and my brother and my sister.
Tell me how it works out.
Great communication.
Tell me how it works out, Jay, because I think it's going to be a game changer for you.
We don't talk that much. We talk in part, you know what I mean? We miscommunicate. We all feed through my parents. They're, elderly, and that the communication gets fucked up. I think it's a great idea. There's we're railing against modern technology for that, in one way, but in the other, I think that's a great idea.
And Group Me isn't social media; it's your social media, so it's actually pretty cool.
That's right.
So
who I decide
exactly. So I can't wait to hear how that turns out for you because I think it's going to be awesome. All right, boys, let's wrap this thing up. You've been listening, all you boys and girls out there, to the Married Not Dead podcast. To find show notes, read awesome blog posts, to find links to all the products or services suggested during the show, please visit our blog at marriednotdead.org. We have some cool changes coming to the site, but for now, that's where you go. If you haven't already, you can join our podcast tribe on the Apple Podcast app, SoundCloud, Stitcher. We're just all over the internet, Google Play. So doesn't matter where you go, search Married Not Dead, you'll find us. And after you subscribe, please don't forget to rate and review. And absolutely. It does mean a lot. It helps.
It helps.
Exactly.
It definitely helps.
And so, yes, we're all over the internet. As I was saying, you can find and follow us on social media as well. So we just spent 45 minutes telling you not to be on social media, but we know you're going to fuck up and fail. So when you get on social media, why not converse with us?
It's a benefit to us.
And do something good for yourself.
Embrace our hypocrisy.
Exactly. So and have a conversation with the M&D crew. So we are on Twitter and Instagram at _Married Not Dead, and on Facebook by searching for the Married Not Dead podcast page.
And we always talk back.
Thank you for saying that. That is absolutely the case. We look forward to those conversations. And until next time, on behalf of Nicholas Buggs, Brian Comer, Jason McConnell, I'm Chris Barkley. We'll see you boys and girls next week. Peace.
Peace.
Good night, boys.
Good night, brother.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/MND podcast. There are over 180,000 titles to choose from, including one of my personal favorites, How to Get Filthy Rich in Rising Asia by Mohsin Hamid. Do not judge this book by its title. The ending had me crying in the middle of a 4-hour flight to Los Angeles. It's made even better by Mohsin's narration, and you can download How to Get Filthy Rich in Rising Asia or any other audiobook of your choice today. Again, for listeners of the Married Not Dead podcast, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. So, to download your free audiobook, go to audibletrial.com/MND podcast. Again, that's audibletrial.com/MND podcast to get your free audiobook today. You will not regret it.